We spend so much of our time and energy trying to predict what's next. What's the next big thing? But what if the real superpower, the real key, is understanding what never changes? Because while technology, politics, and markets are in constant flux, there's one thing that stays the same: human behavior. And getting a handle on these timeless truths, well, that might just be the most valuable skill you can possibly have. Voltaire absolutely nailed it centuries ago. We get so caught up in the new trends, the surprising headlines, but when you zoom out, the real story of history is just us, human beings, playing out the same patterns over and over and over. The same greed, the same fear, the same hopes. And that's the lens we're going to be looking through today.
So, picture this. It's 2009. The global economy is just in absolute shambles. And someone asks Warren Buffett how we could possibly bounce back from this. He just replies with a question of his own. He says, "Do you know what the best-selling candy bar was in 1962? The answer? Snickers. Then he asks, and what's the best-selling one today? Yep, still Snickers. And his point was so profound. The most important things, the things that really drive us, often don't change at all.
So let's really zero in on that constant. I mean, while the world around us is transforming at a pace that's just dizzying, the stuff that actually makes us human, our basic fundamental behaviors, they are remarkably, and I mean remarkably, consistent.
Just think about it for a second. If you could time travel 500 years into the past or 500 years into the future, the technology would be completely baffling, right? But you'd instantly recognize the people. You'd see them driven by the exact same things that drive us today. You'd see greed and fear in the markets. You'd see people persuaded by risk and absolutely consumed by jealousy. You'd see overconfidence everywhere you look, and you'd see everyone just desperately searching for happiness and certainty. And you'd just nod and say, okay, I've seen this movie before, same as ever.
It's just so easy to get distracted by the shiny new thing. It's exciting, I get it. But the really powerful lessons, the ones that will actually help you navigate your future, they come from understanding these constants. To really see what that means in practice, let's dig into one of life's biggest and toughest lessons.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to talk about risk. And I don't mean the kind of risk we put on a spreadsheet. I mean the kind we can't even imagine. The author of our source material, Morgan Housel, he shares this incredibly personal story that just makes this idea painfully clear.
It all starts with 3 teenage friends. They were all competitive ski racers, and they'd basically grown up together on the snowy slopes of Lake Tahoe. So one morning, after this massive blizzard, they decided to do something they shouldn't have: ski out of bounds. The conditions, looking back, were absolutely perfect for an avalanche. A really heavy layer of new, wet snow sitting right on top of a light, fluffy base. A total death trap. So after one run down the backside of the mountain, 2 of the friends are amped up and want to go again. But the author, for a reason he still can't explain to this day, just decided not to join them. It was a thoughtless, split-second impulse that would change literally everything. His 2 friends, Brendan and Brian, were caught in a massive avalanche, and they didn't survive.
I mean, just let that sink in for a moment. His life was saved not by some calculated, rational choice, but by a total fluke, a random impulse. He didn't weigh the pros and cons. It was just pure chance. It just goes to show you that the most important events in our lives can hang by the absolute thinnest of threads.
And that brings us to the real definition of risk. It's not something you can plan away. It's the invisible danger. It's the thing that gets you after you've checked every box, run every model, and planned for every possible scenario. Risk is what you don't see coming.
And this isn't just true for individuals. This is how history works. The biggest events, the ones that truly shape our world, are almost always total surprises. I mean, think about it. COVID-19, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, the 2008 financial crisis. These weren't on anybody's forecast for the year. They were complete shocks to the system. The things that really move the needle are always the things that nobody sees coming.
You want the perfect final example? Look at Harry Houdini. The man was a master of managing known risks. You could tie him up in chains, throw him in a river, bury him alive. He always had a plan. He had it figured out. But how did he die?
From a surprise punch to the stomach backstage when his guard was down, when he wasn't prepared. The biggest risk is always what you don't see.
So, okay, if risk is what we don't see, why are we so bad at seeing it? Well, a huge part of the answer lies in our own psychology. Specifically, it's our deep, and I mean almost insatiable hunger for a good story.
We like to think we want accuracy. We say we want the data, the facts, the cold, hard probabilities. But what our brains truly, deeply crave is the feeling of certainty. And nothing delivers that feeling of, I get it, better than a simple, compelling story. A good story gives us a clear narrative, a shot of confidence, something to hold on to in a chaotic world, even if the story itself is completely wrong.
What this means is that the best story usually wins, not the best idea. An articulate storyteller can make a terrible idea sound like a stroke of genius, while an actual genius with a world-changing discovery might get completely ignored if they can't tell the story right. The packaging matters way more than we want to admit.
And maybe the most powerful example of this in all of history is Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. He actually had a prepared text that day, all written out, but halfway through he kind of pushed it aside. Why? Because his friend, the legendary gospel singer Mahalia Jackson, shouted out from the crowd, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." And in that moment, he abandoned his script and just improvised, delivering one of the most powerful stories ever told.
It was that story, that powerful, emotional dream. That's what captured the world's imagination and literally changed the course of history. It wasn't the carefully prepared arguments or statistics. It was the raw power of a story told from the heart.
And this power of stories, it extends right into our own personal lives, especially when we talk about happiness. See, our happiness isn't just about our objective circumstances. It's about the story we tell ourselves about those circumstances. And that story is so often one of comparison and envy. I mean, look at this. It's a total paradox. Objectively, for many of us, life is dramatically better today than it was in the 1950s. We have higher inflation-adjusted wages, bigger homes, we spend way less of our budget on just basic food, so why don't we feel that much happier? Well, it's because our expectations have risen even faster than our circumstances. We're not comparing ourselves to people in the 1950s, we're comparing ourselves to the curated, perfect highlight reels of everyone we see on social media. The goalposts for happiness just keep moving further and further away.
And this is where that classic, blunt wisdom from Charlie Munger just hits so hard. A huge key to contentment is learning how to manage the internal story of your expectations. This isn't about being lazy or having no ambition. It's about preventing that gap between your reality and your expectations from becoming a constant source of misery.
So, how do we pull all of this together, right? How do you actually operate in a world that's filled with unseen risks and irrational behavior, but is also brimming with incredible long-term opportunity? Well, the answer lies in what you might call a playbook for being a rational optimist.
Okay, here's the framework, and it's brilliant in its simplicity. Step 1, you save like a pessimist. You fully accept that risk is real, that bad news hits like a lightning bolt, and that the world can be a fragile, scary place. You build a financial buffer for the shocks you know you can't see coming. But then, step 2, you invest like an optimist. You have unwavering faith in long-term progress, in human ingenuity, and in our collective ability to solve problems over time. Because the only way you can be a true optimist in the long run is if you're pessimistic enough to survive the short run.
And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. So much of what we believe to be true comes not from some objective analysis of facts, but from our own unique, narrow, and totally personal set of life experiences. So the next time we disagree with someone, instead of assuming they're crazy or wrong, maybe we should ask ourselves this question: what have you experienced that I haven't, that makes you believe what you do? It's a question that holds the key to understanding why people think the way they do, a timeless truth that is, was, and always will be. Same as ever.